Johnny Clark. He was over there one Sunday, and he says, "I've been watching you." He said, would you want to travel with me for a while?" I said, "Yeah." First time I ever went off with him, he said, "Well, did you call and enter?" And I said, "No, I didn't enter." I said, I didn't have the $10 saved up for this." And he said, "Okay." He said, "He called and entered me and paid me entry fee." He said, "Well, you didn't win nothing." He said, "You'll do better next week. The more you get on, the better you get." Number one lesson right there.
This is Beyond the Chutes, presented by Parasite System, helping vets help pets. BTC has been on the road again, this time deep in the heart of Texas. From bunkhouses to barns and from rodeo arenas to kitchen tables, we sat down with folks whose stories remind us of what really matters. When we take the time to listen to one another, we build connection. We see each other, not just our differences. In a world that needs more of that, these personal stories become bridges. So saddle up. Here's one of our visits from the Texas Swing. Sam and I sit down with four-time world champion bull rider Glen Bird, Matador born, Weatherford raised, and rodeo made. From ag teacher Mr. Woody's lessons to perfect style and pure grit, this one's about cowboy wisdom at its best. So today, Sam and I, of course, my partner in the podcast here, Mr. Sam Swearingen, two-time world champion, North America Rodeo Commission, saddle bronc riding champion. Did I get that right, Sam?
Pretty good, Doug.
Okay. You would think after all this time I'd kind of have that down by now.
You would think.
Yeah.
You know how it is. You get older, you kind of get better with years. So it might be 3-time here pretty quick.
Yeah, there you go. Out here in the country, and everything looks great.
Well, it is great.
It is great.
Having a big time.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sitting with us here, and we're gonna have some conversations. So let's go back to the very beginning. Earliest memories, childhood memories, and you weren't born in Weatherford, Texas.
No, I was born in Matador, Texas.
And where is Matador? From where we're living, or where we're sitting right now?
Well, it's out in West Texas. It's about 90 miles under the Cap Rock from Lubbock.
From Lubbock. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be 90 miles east of Lubbock.
Okay. And tell us about earliest memories and life.
Well, my granddad had a lot of cattle, and I got to ride horses with them, and just play cowboy. And my granddad got to teasing about getting on them calves and riding them. Oh, and they tore me up pretty good. I didn't know anything about riding them in. And it just progressed from there.
Yeah. And he had a ranch?
My granddad did, yes.
Yeah. Cattleman?
Yes.
And did everything as a cowboy, from horseback?
Right.
Nice. And you started riding, is that where you first started riding horses?
Yeah, that's where I started getting on. I said I got on horses. I was 4 years old when my dad and mother moved from there and came to Weatherford. So, when I rode horses out there at my granddad's place, I was sitting behind whoever was in the saddle.
Okay, riding double.
Yeah.
And what brought you to Weatherford? I know your folks, but work, business?
My dad was, just making more money working down here than he was out there on the ranches.
And he worked in the factory there?
Yeah.
Okay. And lived in town, lived in the country?
No, we lived in town.
Okay.
And my granddad, he loved rodeos. The first rodeo I ever went to, my granddad took us, my brother and I, and watch them bulls buck. My granddad would sit there and holler and yell. higher the buck, the sweeter the breeze.
How old would you have been when you went to your first rodeo?
I was 7 or 8.
Okay. Were any of the big names there? Do you remember?
R.C. Bells and Bernice Johnson.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about them guys. What you know of them guys?
Well, R.C. Bells, I wasn't around him very much in the later years, but Bernice, he lived right down about 25 miles south of me now.
Oh, wow.
And I'd go down there to Bernice's and visit with him, in the later years.
Okay.
When I got some driver's license and a car.
Yeah.
But first rodeo I ever entered, I didn't have, back then, if you'd call in and enter and had the entry fee when you walked up to the secretary, you could rodeo. So I asked Dad, I said, would he take me to this rodeo and I wouldn't have to hitchhike? And he said, yeah. First real bull I ever got on. And I tell you what, whenever they opened that chute gate, I landed about 20 feet out there in the arena, and that bull was still standing there looking at it. He was still standing in the box looking at me. So I got my stuff and we was going home. Dad never said a word. A little bit he said, he said, I don't think I'm going to take you to any more rodeos. He said, you go to riding better. I said, okay.
So,
Oh well, you don't practice at home. You don't have the keys
No, we
what
lived
to
in
do.
town.
Yeah.
so how did you know to enter the rodeo? How did you get connected? Did you have any equipment or anything at the time?
Well, see, I was in the 9th or 10th grade in school, and I had all the stuff there, and then some of them other boys there was riding bulls and had
Okay.
stuff, so I borrowed their stuff.
Okay.
I didn't have anything.
And other than riding a few calves, no.
Well, we got to practicing there for that little deal.
Did you?
We go up to Charles Bailey's house, and Bailey boys, there's 3 of them, and his dad always had calves in the pen and stuff, yearlings, and we'd go down there and rope them and mug them down and put a bull rope on them, and then somebody get on would pull the rope, and that's where we'd practice.
No bucking shoots.
No bucking shoots. But what got us in trouble, Charles had come home, and here'd be them big yearlings out there with ropes still on their neck. We couldn't get the ropes off of them.
And what did you have somebody instructing, or how to put a bull rope on, or how to put your hand in, or
No, we just done it.
you just done it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And after I did learn how to ride them and what to do, we put them ropes on backwards and everything. Wasn't nothing we did that was right.
Right.
Except we just got bucked off all the time.
But you just kept getting back on.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
What can you describe that? Why? Where'd that come from?
That I don't know. I guess it's just be the wild side in a person. I don't know. I loved it.
And you can't explain it. There's no explaining it. When you get like, I always rode bulls when I was younger, and when I got on that first bronc that throwed me off up over his head, I said, that's it. You can't, that's me.
The Bronx.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Bronx. So
Yeah.
like he said, it's there. You just got to do it.
You just got to do it.
There,
Had you been playing other sports in high school?
Well, I tried football, and boy, I figured out real quick football's too rough.
Okay.
So
So you probably started that in freshman year. And you're riding bulls in a freshman. How big were you then, Glenn? How
How big?
tall? How tall? How much did you weigh?
I don't know, maybe 90 pounds.
Perfect bull riding build.
Well, I didn't have no muscle back then. I just a kid.
Yeah. And
But I got to having fights at school when I was in the 9th grade at Weatherford. And Mr. Landingham, you know, send me to the principal's office. Mr. Van Landingham would give me 5 licks. Well, this went on for the first week, every day. Fight, go get my 5 licks, go back to class. And finally, that last 5th day, Van Landingham said, he said, I want to know what's going on. He said, you've been in here every day, and I give you 5 licks, and you go back to class. I said, yes, sir. He said, what's going on? I said, well, I can't tell you. He said, you're going to tell me you're going to sit right here all day long. I said, well, he said, what's going on? I said, well, they're calling me bird turd. And he just laughed. He said, you mean you've been getting 5 licks every day for that? And I said, yes, sir. I don't like it. Well, he said, the more you fight them, the more they're going to do it. He said, next time they do it, just laugh at them and walk off. And he said, a time or two and they'll quit.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I'll try it.
Yeah.
And it worked.
How would that feel like the first time you had to do it? What'd that feel like?
I didn't really like that, but I did it. 'Cause, I really liked the principal, Landingham.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that neat? He gives you 5 licks a day for how many days?
5 days.
5 days.
Monday through Friday.
But every week or just that one week?
Just that first week.
But he didn't ask you what you were doing or why you were doing it till after the 5th day?
Right.
And did he give you pretty good licks, or was it not that bad?
Oh, they wasn't that bad. I don't remember that anyway. I know I got them.
Did you have to go home and talk to your dad and tell him what happened in school?
No, I didn't tell him.
No. And they didn't call?
Well, no, but one of the teachers called and got hold of Mom. So what they did, they transferred me from Weatherford High School to Peaster High School.
Yeah.
And buddy, when I got to Peaster High School, I met a real cowboy. He's an ag teacher, William T. Woody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he was on the rodeo team, rode bulls at Sam Houston
Really?
College.
College?
Yeah. And so the first day of class, I come in with my black hat on, back there, went back to my desk, and propped my feet up on the desk.
Did you have boots
My
on?
hat on.
Did you have boots on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Woody come in, Mr. Woody was about, I don't know, about my height. And he said, I want to tell you boys, this is the ag class. He said, I want to tell you boys one thing. He said, I am running this class. And if you don't like it, and he just rested behind him, and he come up with a dang table for about 3 foot long, and bammed it on that desk. He said, I mean business. He said, we're going to have it out right here. And he said, you in the black hat back there, you don't get it off, I'm going to come back here and knock it off. I took my hat off. And he said, you don't get them boots off that desk? He said, I'm going to knock them off your feet. I took my feet off the desk. He hauled me to them. He entered me in all them high school rodeos. And he knew all those stock contractors. And I was sitting there, was walking there around there at the rodeo, and he said, I want to introduce you to the stock contractor. And it was Adrian Parker. And he said, him and Mr. Woody and Adrian Parker was talking. Mr. Woody said, I want to tell you something. If you got any of them bulls you don't rode tonight, somebody get on them. He said, this young man right here will get on every one you want him to get on. Yeah, he said, I'll holler at you. So we walked off, and I said, how many think I want to get on, Mr. Woody? He said, don't make no difference. You're going to get on them. I said, okay. Now, this is the first night of the rodeo. I got on 4 bulls. I didn't ride none of them. Boy, they was, they was a lot tougher than I was.
Yeah.
The second night, I got on 3. And they're still tougher than I was.
Yeah, yeah.
And the last night was when I drew up. Now, mine, this one did not turn back. He just jumped and kicked in a circle. I rode him. Won the bull ride.
Win the bull riding.
You know, I just got a little old trophy.
Oh, sure, but you win. Yeah.
Oh, it was a big trophy back then, though.
Oh, yeah.
I'll bet.
But we was going home, and I was laid in the back seat. I was pretty beat up. Mr. Woody was driving home, and he said, man, I don't know what I'm going to tell your mom and dad. Holding y'all and getting you beat up like this. So we got home. Mr. Woody helped me in the house, and Mom and Dad was talking to him, you know, and Mr. Woody said, I'm sorry to get him getting all tore up like this. I said, oh, Mr. Woody, I said, I had the biggest time of my life. I said, I'm just a little sore. I'll be fine tomorrow. My dad said, don't worry about him, Mr. Woody. He said, he'll be tough.
Yeah.
And I kept up with Mr. Woody up until the time he passed away was 3 years ago.
And that's incredible how somebody can step into your life and just change it instantly like that. That's
You know, and all the time I was in school, all I was sitting there doing thinking, how can I escape? But after I got to knowing Mr. Woody, him taking me to all these high school, we went to every high school rodeo we could get to.
Now, when you say high school, this is organized Texas high school rodeo.
Right.
Okay.
And most of them was all put on by the ag chapters in these schools.
Mm-hmm.
So, I really, Mr. Woody taught me how to want to learn something, how to pay attention, you know, to learn anything. He was an amazing man.
Would you call him a mentor? I mean, he gave you instruction?
Yes, I would. I really did like him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And this would have been mid-50s? When would this have been, Glenn?
This was 62.
Oh, 62.
61 or 62.
61 or 62.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're still, though, a freshman, sophomore, something like that?
Yeah.
And Mr. Woody comes in and grabs your attention.
Yep.
And you talked about, it sounded like, learning how to learn.
Right.
Describe that a little bit.
Well, most people, they just don't pay attention. They don't listen to what somebody's saying. Well, if you don't listen to what they're saying, how are you going to learn anything from them? So
that might be the statement of the week right
I
there.
think so.
If you don't listen to what they're saying, how can you learn anything?
You bet.
yeah.
You know, teaching schools and stuff, it always, if they knew more than me, well, why'd you pay to come here? You know,
Yeah.
it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, listen. If you don't listen to what they're saying, how can you learn from them?
Did you, throughout your career, was that the learning was always there?
Oh, yeah. You know, the more of them high school rodeos we went to, there's a place over in Kennedale. Every Sunday they had buck out. And if you wanted to get on bulls, go, I can't remember now whether it was $1 or $2 a head. Everyone you got on the rolling reed would charge you $1 or $2. So I got to saving my money, and Dad would take us over because he didn't want us hitchhiking, my brother and I, hitchhiking over at Fort Worth. So he'd take us over. And I'd get on as many bulls as I had money to pay for, you know. And that was every Sunday. And the more you get on, the faster you learn from them. And moved from going to Kennedale, you know, I got hearing about Mansfield, cowbell. So we got to catching rides to Mansfield to Cowbell. Boy, I'll tell you what, now they had some bucking bulls there. And, we'd watch them. It was, and I thought, boy, if I can ever get to where I can ride anything, come here and ride, this would be like the Grand Garden, New York.
Big business.
Oh, really impressive. So, kept riding at Kennedale. We got to doing better. And Johnny Clark, he was over there one Sunday, and he said, "I've been watching you." He said, "Would you want to travel with me for a while?" I said, "Yeah, I would." So the first time I ever went off with him was going, and he said, "Well, did you call and enter?" And I said, "No, I didn't enter." I said, I didn't have the $10 saved up for this. The $10 entry fees back then.
Yeah.
And he said, "Okay." He said, he stopped and he made a phone call or two, a pay phone, and we were going to 2 other rodeos. Well, he called and entered me and paid me entry fee.
Oh my goodness.
So that got to getting on them bulls, them rodeos, and wasn't getting to pick what you was getting on. You just taking from the draw. And I didn't do too good. Clark told me, said, "Now I get half what you win." I said, "All right." That was, Clark was a tremendous, great bull rider. I've been watching him at Mansfield. And I never seen him get throwed off at Mansfield. But anyway, he was going along, and we was coming back home. He said, "Well, you didn't win nothing." He said, "You'll do better next week." I said, "The more you get on, the better you get." So, number one lesson right there. So I piddled around, and the night I graduated, Peaster, as soon as graduation's over with, I pulled my gown and cap on and hugged Mom and Dad. Clark and Goat Mullis was sitting out back of the room, went and got in the car. We went to Florida.
What'd you folks think of that?
Oh, Dad, he loved it. School was out one time, and I was in my bedroom, and come out, and Dad said, "Well, what are you going to do this summer?" I said, "Well, I guess I'll go get me a job." Dad looked at me and said, "Well," he said, "I'll tell you something. You'll have the rest of your old life to work." I said, "Really?" And he said, "Think about it." I said, "Okay." I go back in the room, got my rigging bag. I didn't have a suitcase. I had a dirty clothes bag. Put me some pants and shirts in there and stuff, Come back out, and Dad said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to go rodeoing." He said, "Okay." He said, "Good luck."
Well,
Supportive.
Yep.
and the opposite, 99% of the parents would have been just the opposite. Go get a job, work, to get a future. And he said to go rodeo. That's pretty incredible.
Isn't that
I
incredible?
think Dad forgot about that first rodeo we went to.
That you laid out in the arena and the bull looking at you, huh?
Yeah.
But you'd been enjoying some pretty decent success. He had seen you come up through. He'd seen you ride and improve.
Right.
Yeah.
So, about the reason I quit traveling with Clark in, I guess it was 63 or 64, Bull throwed me off at Mansfield, and I didn't turn loose of the rope, and he throwed me up. And when I come back down, my right leg hit across his horn, and broke both bones. And after, when he whacked me in the leg, I turned loose of the rope, and I don't know how I did it, but I landed on my feet. I turned the flip in the air and landed on my feet, and both those bones stuck out.
Oh,
My leg.
compound fracture.
Yeah.
And how old would you have been at that point? 64, you said? 63?
Yeah, that was 64. So they carried me to the car, and my brother, he drove back to Weatherford, checked me into hospital here at Weatherford, and I was in there for, seemed like forever. But finally got it healed up. But you know, that's the time that stupidity took over in me. I figured out watching them nurses put them casts on. I figured out how to put them casts on. So, my brother and I, we go down there to the drugstore and get the cast wrapping. And we go home. I took all the leather off my spur, put it on that right foot. We wrapped that spur in that cast, and got to enter them rodeos again.
Now, let me just back up here a little bit. Make sure I got this right. You got a full cast, your knee from your knee down. I take it from your thigh, down.
From my thigh down.
You can't bend your knee.
No.
Can you move your ankle?
No, it's all wrapped up in. Just my toes sticking out.
Okay. And you figured out how to no boot on. No, you had a cast on. So you took a spur and you put it on that cast and then wrapped it and extended your cast in and around your spur.
Right.
Was you on crutches?
Yeah.
And was that spur always on then from that point forward? Or
Yeah, until we cut it off.
When, I mean, like the whole week and the whole month it was on?
It was on. It was on for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and my leg got to feeling bad, so I went to the doctor, and he seen that spur in it, and he said, "What in the hell are you doing?" I said, "I've been riding bulls."
Now, wait a minute. You've been getting on bulls with this full cast.
Yeah.
I thought you just put on a spur so he'd kind of make you feel like a cowboy.
No,
How in the world do you ride a bull without being able to move your ankle, your knee?
Well, I got one picture with that cast on, and I'm on a bull, and it's at Mansfield.
And were you able to ride them?
I don't remember.
And the get
Probably not.
And the get-offs?
We watch these guys now, they just fall off everywhere.
But to land on that, didn't that hurt?
Well, you don't want to land on that right side. I rode left-handed, so it was easy to get off to the left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said something about stupidity. Stupidity set in, you said.
Yeah,
Speaks for
stupidity
itself.
drove me to that.
To putting a spur on to your cast and getting on a bull with the cast on. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
So to do it all again, would you do that again?
No.
No.
I'm smarter now.
Yes, young folks out there.
Yes.
Young folks out there, Dalen.
And
Old folks can teach you something.
absolutely. And any lasting effects from that?
But you know that.
Now wait, are you changing the subject?
He smiled a little sly smile there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, see, when I finally got out of that full-length cast
Yeah.
and one down to the knee, boy, we were in business then.
Because you could move your knee at that point.
Right. So we put the spur back in. My brother and I, we cut that doctor's cast off. We make us another, start wrapping it and rubbing it down with water. Put that spur in there, and here we go.
There you go. Away you went again. And when you told the doctor you was getting on bulls, what did he say?
Well, he didn't know it.
Oh.
So I learned a lesson when I went went to him with that full cast on that spur, and he got all over me. So we didn't go that route again.
You just didn't tell him.
When, I don't know, it was somewhere in Mississippi. Now I got a cast on up to my knee, IRA rodeo, and we're out there. This bull just jumping and kicking, made a big circle. Boy, everything's nice. And when I got off, I poked that right leg in the dirt first, and I felt that bone slip. So here we go. Have to go over, and went back to the doctor. They reset it. I told Arnold, I said, I don't know if I'm going to get this leg well if we keep doing this. And Arnold, he's 3 years younger than me, and he said, yeah, but look at all the fun we're having. I thought, man, I don't know how much fun you think it is. Anyway,
Friends like that, brothers like that.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. He was having a ball. So you said the IRA, it was an IRA rodeo. Had you'd bought your card at that point, or was you riding local?
No, I bought my IRA card in '63.
Okay.
Because now I broke my leg, I was up the next Sunday at Mobile, Alabama, in the IRA, and I called. When my leg broke, I called Ben Jordan, and told Ben where I was at and what I'd done. And he said, I'll draw you out then. I said, okay. And finally the doctor told me about my leg. I kept getting on him, He said, I'm going to tell you something. If you break this leg again, we're probably going to have to cut your leg off. He said, then how are you going to ride? Well, I said, okay. But it was, and the reason it's a little bent today, I don't think I broke it, but I pulled it apart, and Arnold and I set it and put it in another cast without a spur. I told Arnold, I said, we're going to stay home till this is over.
So the same bone 3 times. Reset it 3 times. Didn't that hurt like heck when he reset that leg?
No, we watched him do it on TV. Arnold, he just got a hold of my ankle down there and just pulled it.
That's cowboy stuff's what that is, Glenn.
Well,
I think it's what he said first.
Well,
stupidity. Yeah.
Yeah. But you was consistent.
yeah, I didn't lose it. I didn't lose it very quick.
So I want to back up a little bit. You graduate from high school, you jump in a car, and you head to Florida. I interrupted that thought pattern. Tell us about that first. That'd be your first real weekend out on the road, right? First,
oh yeah,
I'm going pro.
I tell you what, that was the most fun trip that I ever made. I mean, Goat Mullis and John Clark sit up there in the front seat, and I was in the back seat. And they told jokes, they laughed. And, it was all night long. I went to sleep sometime back there. When I woke up, it was late in the afternoon. And I think we was at Naples, Florida.
Naples,
Florida we went.
Naples, down on the Gulf. Yeah, that's a long trip.
And Pat Hansel had it. Of course, I don't remember what. I think Goat was a bareback rider, maybe a saddle bronc rider too. But Clark, he went the bull riding and bareback riding. And my bull was the only one that went to the roping end. He went straight down the arena. Only one.
Yeah.
All the rest of them turned back and spin. So, just the way it was.
Luck of the draw.
Luck of the draw.
And Florida, probably big old Brammer.
Sam, I don't remember.
Uh-huh.
He just jumped and kicked, went straight down the arena. But I through the years, I stayed 2 winters down there in Florida with Bobby Rowe, and then 1 year with Matt there on the ranch with Pat Anselin family. But it was fine times.
Florida was good to rodeo in the wintertime. Yeah, it was always good. Still is.
And you was rodeoing full time. That was your work.
Yes.
And come home how often?
Well, when I was young, there's something about just traveling, seeing everything. I'd never been out no further than Weatherford to Matador.
Yeah.
All the pretty American country, meeting people that, I love that. And that's the thing about rodeo. If you don't like traveling, and you don't haul good, it's hard to rodeo. And I love that traveling. And,
all the way through your career?
well, after got to where I could, I go to them rodeos, I wouldn't even have to have a map. I knew exactly where that rodeo was at, how to get there. The longer I rodeoed, the harder traveling got.
Were you married when you were rodeoing towards the end?
I got married in 68.
Yeah, so you were still going hard. Still, was that full time at that point, all the way through? When you went, you went.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd try to get, come home, be gone a month and a half, 2 months, something like that.
I mean, out on the road, gone, calling home with the payphone.
Yeah.
Call and collect.
No.
No.
Well, I did too. I did too.
Yeah.
All the checks have been mailed to her, let her pay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So how many years did you haul with Johnny Clark?
Oh, after I broke my leg and got well from that, I was in East Texas, them rodeos over there, and run into Hal Pilgrim. And, he's fine young man. So Hal and I got to traveling together. A friend of ours, a friend of Hal's back then, had Robert Wright at Talco his dad built him an arena. He had bucking bulls. Hal said, we'll go over and practice on some Robert's bull. So we did that. And then we got to going over to Clyde Crenshaw's, and he'd have a buck out over there. He was trying all them young green bulls, and we'd go over and, Clyde just let you get on as many as you wanted to. And whenever that was over, if you wanted to have a jackpot and everybody put up some money, they'd do that. And the best thing, Clyde's wife would cook a big dinner for us.
Okay.
And the first dinner I had over there with him, and we're sitting there. His wife come around, and these little bottles of half pint of brandy, set one down at every plate. I looked over at Sody Fleming, so we eat. Everybody was sipping on their brandy. Clyde was a little guy. Clyde said, okay, boys. He said, let's go ride some more bulls.
After you drink some brandy.
Yeah. Peach brandy. Peach brandy is what it was.
Okay. Peach brandy. You still like peach brandy?
Oh, I haven't had no peach brandy in a long time, but the last time I had it, which was about 5 or 6 years ago, pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just don't want to take too much of it. It's too sweet.
Yeah. So you met Hal.
Yeah, oh yeah. Hal Pilgrim. Now, Hal was, he was 16 whenever I run across him. He had to go to school. Pilgrim's Fried Chicken.
That's the family.
That's the family.
Okay.
So, yeah, we traveled all summer, and Hal had to go back to school, so he goes back to Pittsburgh, and
Pittsburgh,
Texas.
Texas. Yeah. Okay.
But before that, Hal and I was up at Guthrie, Oklahoma, and was there up at Guthrie and was entered the next night in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Holy cow.
So the bull riding was over with, and Hal and I was at the car and was fixing to leave, and Red Duffin come up. And he said, I was told y'all are going to Fort Wayne, Indiana. I said, yeah. He said, could I catch a ride with you? And I said, sure. So Red, now I'd seen Red at some rodeos, but I'd never been introduced to him. Didn't know him.
Okay.
And Red throwed his rigging bag in the trunk, had a brown paper sack. He said, get over, I'll drive. He said, I told Red, I said, no, I said, I don't want you driving my new car and drinking whiskey.
Yeah.
He said, get your ass in the back seat and go to sleep. I'm driving. I said, okay. So I got in the back seat and went to sleep. Hal and Red sat up in the front seat. Red sipped on that whiskey all the way to Fort Wayne, Indiana.
He drove the whole way.
Yeah.
And how old would he have been compared to you and Hal? Hal was 16, more or less, you said.
Yeah.
You'd have been...
Me, I was 19.
19.
But we got to Fort Wayne, and I don't remember what we did at the rodeo, but I got to knowing Red. And when Hal went to school, you know, I seen Red at a rodeo, and I asked him, I said, are you going to go to all these rodeos that you can? He said, yeah. I said, can I go with you? Sure. Well, the next, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, I lived with Red.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Full time?
Center.
And how much older than you would he have been?
Well, now that's a funny thing. Back when we was rodeoing, Red was 6 years older than me. And now that we've got old, there's only 3 years between us.
He's 6 years younger now.
I asked him one day, I said, you know, Red, I said, you used to be 6 years older than me, and now we're just 3 years apart? And he said, look, kid, that's just the way it is. I said, okay.
Like get in the back, I'm driving. Okay.
Yeah, that's what he told me. He said, you get your ass in the back seat back and go to sleep.
So you stayed with him full time and you rodeoed with him, and he went hard?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. And he was riding bulls and steer wrestling?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, it was a great time when I was rodeoing with Red. I mean, I was going too fast, and it was in Illinois, and the highway patrol told me, I said, you know, I don't have no money. I said, I don't know how I'm going to pay this ticket. He said, oh, you can post bond with your driver's license. I said, I can? And see, if I'd have give him the $50, that would have been 2 or 3 entry fees. I was going to be short. So I said, okay. So I posted bond with my driver's license. Here we go. And wasn't long after that, I got a letter in the mail. Failure to appear in court or something. So, you know, I just throw it away. It's in Illinois, you know. So we're going around Red 9, and I was going too fast. You know, the lights come on, you know, the sirens. And Red was in the sleeper. I reached back in the sleeper, and I said, Red, get up. This guy up here wants to talk to you. Oh, and he started coming down there, swinging his legs around. I was over on the side of the road. I just pushed off the steering wheel, and slid over the other side. And when he come down, he's in his pants, barefooted, no shirt on, behind the wheel. this officer walked up, pecked on the window, and looked around at him. And he said, yeah, what do you want? And the officer said, I need to talk to you. So he got out and they went back there behind the trailer talking, and something about a trailer light wasn't right or something. But I know if he'd have stopped me and I didn't have no license, I was probably going to go to jail.
Because Illinois had your license?
Yeah, I posted bond with him.
Yeah.
So Red come back to got in the truck, and the first thing, it was a big old red fist went, whew. Oh, man, I got over far that door as I could. Red said, I can't believe you done this to me. I said, well, I told you that guy wanted to talk to you. Oh, he was mad. He said, if I could get my hands on you right now, he said, I'd just spank you. I said, well, Red, if you keep sitting there, he's going to think something's wrong. So Red took off, and eased on down the road. Finally, we pulled over, and Red put his shoes and boots on and shirt. He cooled off within. But he never forgot that either.
So you win your first title, your first bull riding title, in 1966.
Right.
Now, that was before the IFR. The IFR didn't happen until 1971.
Right.
So it was based on your winnings for the year?
Yes.
Yes. And did they have a convention that year and you went down and got your saddle and stuff like that?
Right, they had a convention and, everybody dressed up. It was really a nice affair.
Do you remember where that was, the convention?
I think it was in Arkansas. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But there was the hotel, there was a water fountain and a bunch of ducks come down the elevator and they'd go to the water fountain and sometime during the day they'd call them back and then get in the elevator and they'd go back up to the roof. Now where that was at, I don't know.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that, Doug?
I have not. Do you know what he's talking about?
I have heard of it, yes.
Do you know where it is?
No.
No.
But I have seen video.
Oh, you
We
have?
remember the ducks, don't we?
Ducks coming down the elevator and going out to the water and then coming back in, going, whoop. Yeah.
So 1966, you get to see the ducks on the elevator. That's pretty cool. What stood out for you that first year, that championship year, I should say? You'd been going 3 years pretty hard. What was different about that 1 year?
Well, the first thing you got to do is be able to draw good ones. And I figured out, there'd be a carload of us, and all them boys would be talking about, oh, I don't want to draw this, I don't want to draw that, And I got to thinking, most of the time when they got at the rodeo, they'd have some junk like that they didn't want to get on. And I thought, well, I'm going to start talking about the ones I want to get on. And I don't know if there's anything to it, but I drawed one black bull 9 times in the same year. Oh, he was a good one. Jump, kick, turn back and spin. You didn't know which way he's going to turn back, but he would turn back. 9 times. Sloan Williams, 131 or 132. Good Charolais bull, jump, kick, spin. Drawed him 4 times. 1 year. And there's, every producer out there had at least 2 really outstanding bucking bulls. And horses, that had more horses than they did bulls. But anyway, you to really compete, you had to get in the top end of the bull herd. And I can't remember a lot of them bulls' numbers. But Ronnie Williams, when I got to travel, when Ronnie started traveling with me, Ronnie could watch a bull or an animal buck 2 years later, he can tell you every jump he made. He can remember them animals like, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Is that right?
Yeah. And Hal Pilgrim, the same way. I don't know. I just, a lot of them bulls, I couldn't remember.
Yeah. Did you have a book? Did you keep notes on bulls?
No.
No? So every time you got on them, you didn't know a lot about it, you just wrote them.
Well, I got to get a little smarter. I'd ask Ronnie, I said, what's this bull here do? Or you'd ask the flank man or stock contractor.
Sure.
Especially, we'd go somewhere where we didn't know them.
Now, you started hauling with Ronnie, would have been like 68?
Yeah, 67, 68.
Okay. And before you jumped with him, you won your first championship in 66. You won your second championship in 67. And then you won your third in 68. First cowboy at that point to win 3 championships in a row, I do believe.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe so. I'm not. If I was going to say anything in that line, I'd say Ben Jordan. Ben Jordan was an unreal cowboy. The first time I ever seen him, I watched him ride, and he rode a bull that jumped as high as this ceiling, spinning. And I told Hal, I said, boy, I'll be glad that old man retires. I knew he rodeoed my entire career.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
That he did. He was a heck of a cowboy.
And the first time I ever seen his son ride, Benny, it was a bareback horse, and I just couldn't believe how somebody could ride that correct, so perfect. And I was just a kid, I was 17, 18 years old, and it was like, wow, it was amazing.
Yeah, Ben Jordan and Benny and his whole family is just super people.
Who were the influences on your style? Any cowboys that stood out that you said, I want to ride like this one, or picked up things that built your own style?
Well, I don't know, it's, I lost, when I got over my stupidity, I started watching. And Ben Jordan in the barrack riding, the way he rode barrack horses, and he held his arm halfway up, halfway in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And asked Ben one time, I said, Ben, how come you hold your arm up like that, your free arm? He said, balance. I said, balance. He said, yeah. He said, you got it up. If you need to move it forward, you're already halfway there. Or if you need to throw it back, you're halfway there. Or you need to throw your hand up over your head, you're already halfway there. So I understand. Ben, this is way back there. Ben said, you need to learn something. I said, okay, I'm ready. He said, you can't hold your breath for 8 seconds and ride bull. I said, is that what I'm doing? He said, yeah. He said, I was watching you. You never took a breath. I said, really? I said, I didn't know that. So as soon as I got back home, I'm back over at Kennedale, and I'm getting on some bulls that just jump and kick down and ran. Wasn't even thinking about trying to ride them. I thought about trying to breathe.
While you're riding?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now then, when I could feel myself, I'm riding bull. Of course, it wasn't doing very much, just jumping and kicking a little bit. But I'm breathing, and I could feel it. Next time I got on a good bull, I felt, I wasn't winded. I was, I still felt fresh, and I just made 8 and got off.
By breathing?
Well, you'd be surprised how much that'll help you. and you can get a breath every time you need it.
And getting advice like that, getting advice on the physical stuff, whether you're positioning your right or your free arm, did you adopt that as well? Started holding it out?
Yeah.
Like Benny did.
Look right there.
Oh, wow.
Look at that one up there.
Okay.
You know, that was my. Now I learned this the hard way. It's better holding on to the bucking shoe and nodding. Sometimes your hand don't know you nodded.
It's got other plans.
Like
when you go to college, you got to pay your tuition.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you only want to pay it one time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So after that little accident, before I nodded, I'm in the go position.
And what he just did is what we really preach to these young kids: be square.
Be square.
Yeah.
Be square. Keep that body square, keep your shoulders square, keep your free arm square, and makes all the difference.
And everybody I've talked to, Glenn, and everybody that has shared their memories of you talks about this perfect form. Toes turned out, always in the right place, always square, like these pictures up here. The perfect form. I believe I read something the other day. I read it to Sam. Red Dolphin in an article said you look pretty riding bulls.
Oh, Red would have said that about me.
That's kind of not what you want to hear Red say. He's pretty big and burly. You
Yeah,
don't want to hear
he
him
is.
say that.
I bet Red is still pretty salty.
He used to scare me when I was a kid. Oh, I'm telling you, that man scared me. I didn't even really know him, but he was intimidating. He was a massive man.
Yeah. But you had style.
Well, all I can say is you gotta, you have to work on every little piece of it. I mean, it just don't. You're not gonna put all that together in one ride, or 1 year. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to work on turning your toes out. Don't think about anything else but that on, your practice books. And once you get it down, then you can move on to the next level.
So you was pretty structured in your learning. When you're learning something new, you're pretty disciplined, pretty structured in how you began to apply what you was thinking.
Well, it's either learn the business or go get a job.
Right.
And I didn't want to do that.
Didn't want to do that. You've been listening to Beyond the Chutes as presented by Parasite System, helping vets help pets. Before we wrap up, we've got something for all you rodeo road warriors out there. A good friend of ours, Mr. Stan Cromlish, has just a thing to make those long hauls a little smoother.
Hey, Rodeo Road Warriors! Stan Cromlish here from the Wandering Gypsy RV Life Podcast. Ever had a trip go sideways, faster than a bronc out of the chute? Grab my book, Rolling Smooth, How to Enjoy the RV Life Without Losing Your Cool. Packed with real RV stories, hard-won lessons, and a few laughs at my expense. Listen on Audible. Snag a copy at WanderingGypsyRVLife.com and catch the Wandering Gypsy RV Life podcast for more wild tales from the road. Don't just ride, roll smooth.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Simcox & Company. 4 barbers, 4 generations strong, Deb, Tom, Eli, and Troy, keep the tradition alive. No appointment needed, just walk in, share some good conversation, and leave looking sharp. It's also brought to you by Nikki McLeod, whose albums Prepaid and Some Kind of Reckless are available now wherever you find your music. And I've been reading Steve Gander's new book, World's Toughest Rodeo, where an Iowa farm boy takes his Midwestern life lessons to rodeo. It's a fast-moving, page-turning ride through the grit and glory of the arena. Definitely worth a read. It belongs on your bookshelf. It's out now on Amazon. And don't forget Liesl Harris's This Ain't My First Rodeo, available now on Amazon. The story of the legend told the way only Liesl could tell it. This has been a BTC production. Until next time, thank you for listening.
Come